artillery that would have been here during the 1770s, here for fort defense. And it is a very powerful weapon. There's a couple of things that make it such a good weapon on an 18th century battlefield. The first one being that it's highly mobile. It's made out of bronze, which is a lot lighter weight than some of the heavier cannons that you'll see around that are made out of iron. It's also got these nice big wheels on it, making it highly mobile. There's actually a quote from the 1770s that says, "Anywhere a goat can go, a man can go. Anywhere a man can go, he can drag a gun." This is the gun they're talking about. You can get this thing up a sheer cliff if you have to. So it's highly mobile. It's also got a good range to it. You can take a 6-pound cannonball and launch it up to 1 mile. If you look back behind me on the bridge, where the cables come down, there's a big cement wall. That's about a mile from us. Or if you've been downtown, the Starline Ferry Dock is also about a mile from this location. So you can kind of imagine a circle at a mile distance from the fort. That's the area of control. If an enemy army wanted to attack Michilimackinac, once they got within that mile range, the artillery would begin to open fire. Now at that range though, they're basically just warning shots. You're probably not going to be able to hit much of anything. Wait until they get a half mile, now you can hit the size of that blockhouse with every single shot. If they still don't get the hint and they keep coming closer, you can load down case shot. It's a big tin can packed full of musket balls, turns this thing into a massive shotgun. Good for clearing out anyone and anything in front of it for 300 to 400 yards. It's a very powerful weapon. Historically though, at Michilimackinac, the artillery was never used as a weapon. There was no one to shoot at. Even during the height of the American Revolution, no one attacked this place. The cannons were never fired in anger, but they were still being fired regularly. And they're being fired off for 2 main reasons. The first one being practice. Practice makes perfect. Now we know they didn't get attacked. They didn't know that back then. They had to be ready just in case someone did come up and besiege the fort. And it's especially important to train with a cannon like this, because a full crew for just this cannon would be 14 members of the Royal Regiment of Artillery. British soldiers who'd been dressed like I am, with the royal blue artillery coat rather than the red infantry coat. The artillerymen would have to know geometry, trigonometry, physics, all the math and science that goes into properly using this weapon. Historically though, Michilimackinac usually only had 1, sometimes 2 artillerymen stationed here at any given time, so not the full staff they would need. That means the artillerymen who were here would be training members of the infantry like Lawson in how to load up and fire the weapon. The second reason they're firing them off is what we're about to do for all of you, known as a salute charge. Run down the black powder, no cannonball, and fire it off in celebration. Maybe welcoming native leaders arriving to negotiate with the British, new commanding officers are greeted by a blast of the guns. You can even use this thing to celebrate important holidays. But to start our salute charge, the first command will be, prepare for action! Like I mentioned earlier, it's highly mobile. Everything you need to shoot is strapped to the gun. You gotta take off all that stuff before you can fire though. These boxes coming off are very important that you take off. These are ammunition lockers, which would have been full of explosives. You don't want that next to the barrel as it's firing. One stray spark gets in those boxes and now it's going to be an exploding bomb and a very bad day for our cannon crew. We also have some tools coming off. Those will be used for loading down our round and cleaning out the cannon. And there were some coverings on the barrel just to make sure nothing gets shoved down there while we're not out here. Cannon's ready to go. We can get these 2 in position with the command, man out the piece. As I mentioned earlier, a full crew would be 14 people, but they have provisions on how to do it as few as 3 people. It will just take more work on their part. Take care. Basically just the attention command, sit up straight. Tend to vent. Erin will take her thumb and cover up the touch hole at the back of the gun. This will create a vacuum down there later on, making it a lot safer for Lawson to start working. Search piece. Now we need to make sure there's nothing solid down there. Bird's nest, wad of gum, the charge from last time. We'll run down this big corkscrew known as the worm, see if we can pull any of that debris. We don't want anything that can interfere with the charge going all the way to the back of the gun. We also don't want anything hot down there. Advanced sponge. So our next tool will be a little bit of wool wrapped around a pole, dipped in just a little bit of water. We'll use that to sponge piece. He'll run that down there, cooling off the inside of the barrel. If there's something hot still down there from the last shot and you put down a new powder charge, it will go off early, sending the ramrod along with Lawson's fingers flying into Lake Michigan. Handle cartridge. he's now safe to come back to our ammunition lockers and grab a powder charge. A reminder that with a full crew, every job that he just did, including this one, there would be a single man to do each of those positions. He'll bring this charge up to the front, load, place it into the muzzle of the gun, pick the sponge back up, flip it over. There's a solid wooden block. That's our ramming head, which we will use to ram down cartridge, push that charge all the way to the back of the gun, give it a few hits, and seat it right under where Erin's covering up with her thumb. We can now prime. She'll take a long brass needle, just like the one I have here, run it down the touch hole, and that will poke open a hole in our charge. From there, there's a tin on her waist packed full of priming fuses. Historically, these would have been tin tubes packed full of black powder. Light the top of it with a burning match, it'll ignite, sending a jet of flame down into the chamber and get everything else to go kaboom. But now the cannon is loaded and primed. If you're on a battlefield, the next step would be to take aim. The back can be lifted up to turn left or right. And there's a large screw under where Erin was covering up. That can be used to change the elevation or angle of the gun. But we are just about ready to fire. A couple of warnings first, though. This is a piece of artillery. It can be quite loud. I'm going to be cheating and using foam earpieces. Your fingertips will work perfectly if you so choose. Once I get these bad boys in, though, we only have 2 more commands to fire. And those commands are... Make ready! Fire! God save the king! Secure the piece! So there is a salute charge to welcome you all to Michilimackinac today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, feel free to talk to us. Next program will be at 2:30. There'll be a musket demonstration by the flagpole inside, followed at 3 o'clock by a garden walking tour around the fort. Until then,